Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. In the last lecture, I think I have started with the relational model. Okay, I have taken with the relational model. Now, there are one or two topics are left, which I have to complete in your module number one, so that we can proceed to the next module. So today I will be covering the remaining portion as far as module one is concerned. Okay, so I'll share my screen. Yes. So I was talking about the relational model, and already we have studied. Just revise what we have studied in the relational model. That it is a data. Actually, that is a data model in which the different columns and different rows we have. So the columns are called as attributes or fields. In terms of DBMS, the subject, we call them as attributes or fields, and the data which we give through the row, that is called as a tuple or rows. Okay. Actually, every row will consist of the set of records. Okay, so it's like a relational model will have a set of records. Relational model will have set of records. So we have talked about the tuple, the row, the attributes, the fields. Then every value in the column or in the row are called as a domain. Then we have also talk about what do you mean by schema of relation. So the definition of a schema of relation is nothing but a description of a data in terms of data model is called as a schema. Okay, and the relational schema, if you see on your screen now, please see on your screen, a description of data in terms of a data model is called as a schema. Okay, now in the relational model, the schema for a relation specifies its name, the name of each field, and the type of each field. This is important. I think this thing I haven't explained you in my last lecture. So in the relational model, now whenever you talk about the relational model, in this, the definition of schema would be that whenever you define any attributes or any entity in terms of the relation. Okay, so here, for example, the relation specifies the name, it specifies the name of each field and the type of each field. Let me give an example. If you talk about this particular schema, this is a schema, how the schema is given. Okay, how the schema is given. Now, if you talk here, the students is the name of the schema. Okay, the name of the schema. So the name is covered here. The name is covered here. The name of each field or attribute or column. So that thing has to be defined. So how do you define them? That is define them in terms of here, SID, student ID, name of the student, login ID of the student, and age and GPA. These are called as different fields. You can say attributes, you can say column. Okay, so whenever this in terms of relational model, whenever you are defining the schema, it will be in terms of the name of the schema given as students, then the name of the field. Here it is given as how many total five fields are there, and the important one, the type of each field, the type of each field. So here SID is a string, here name is a string, login is the string, age is a integer, and your GPA is a real. So it is called as a type of each field, type of each field, type of each field. So whenever you are defining the schema in the relational model, it has to be defined in this way, in which you have to specify the schema name, the name of the field, and the name and the type of each field. Okay, so this is how you have to define in the DBMS, that is a database management system. Now whenever you are defining this schema in the relational model, then that would appear in the data model in this manner. That will appear in this manner. This is how it is defined in terms of the table. Okay, so in the terms of table, you have the five columns: SID, name, login, age, GPA, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 rows are there. Okay, and here we know that every row will have some records. That means the relations is defined there for every student. The relation is defined there for every student. What relation? The name, it's his or her login ID, his or her age, his or her GPA, and his or her ID. So that relation is defined in the relational model. The different records giving the relation is defined in the relational model. That is defined in the relational model. Here one important thing is that here we need to also understand one important terminology, that is integrity constants. Integrity constants. Now here integrity constants means, now here if you see carefully, when you talk about the tuple, now in this tuple, if you see, they have started with the first column, that is SID, that is student ID. Now this student ID is unique for every student. Nowhere we will see there is a repetition. Already we have studied some of the properties of relational model. हमने properties देखी है, उसमें हमने बताया है कि no, there should be not be repetition, there should not be duplication in the tuple, or you can say in terms of attributes. Now here SID is unique. SID is unique for every student. So this uniqueness will bring some type of the some type of effectiveness in which I would be able to bifurcate some of the students. Okay, for example, if I'm saying I want the number of students whose SID is greater than, whose SID is less than, or whose SID is in between, whose SID is between. Okay, so in that case, this particular field which is unique, that particular field which is unique is called as integrity constraint. That is called as integrity constraint. Okay, so that can give us some condition which we can put in the database to get some knowledge. Some condition means if I want the SID in between, if I want some the number of students whose SID is greater than, number of students whose SID is less than. So if I'm able to put up some condition in terms of some specific field which is unique, then that is called as integrity constraints. Okay, that called as integrity constraints. So this term is also important. This term is also important. We will proceed further. Now, regarding the relational model, I have explained you each and everything, the properties. What do you mean by poor design? Okay, then we have seen what do you mean by schema. In the schema also we have, I think we have written one statement that this gives a template for describing a student. It gives us a template to describe the student. So the template is in the form of this table. It is in the form of this table. And if I have to describe the schema, I would describe in this manner. Okay. So this is all about the relational model, I think. We have in the module number 2, we have to study different data models are there. Okay, what are the different data models? Relational model is mostly widely used. So that's why here we have to understand what do you mean by schema and how the data model is represented in the relational model and some of the terminologies which are used. Okay, so that for that we have taken a relational model in this. Now here we can proceed further. There are some other models. ये models हम देखेंगे in the second module, but just to have a brief overview, I could say the other models would be, we have just seen relational data model. Other than this relational data model, we have network model, we have hierarchical model. Okay, we have object relational model, we have one more model, that is object relational model. Already we have done object oriented model. Okay, so these are 5 are there are few more are there, but these are most important one: relational data model, hierarchical model, the network model, object oriented model, and object relational model. and these are used in some of the DBMS product. Like if I take a relational data model, it is used in Oracle, it is used in Microsoft Access, Foxbase, Paradox, Tandem. Okay, these are used in this particular database model in database product. Along with this, we also have SQL. Okay, SQL में भी हम ये जब देखेंगे SQL language, in that time you will be able to understand this data model can be also the some queries can be put up in terms of SQL language. अभी queries क्या होती है, that thing we will see in the consecutive lectures. लेकिन हम query कैसे put up कर सकते हैं to get some output, that thing we will understand when you talk about SQL. Okay, so just try to understand the points are. Yes, now we move to the levels of abstraction in DBMS. This is very important. Okay, so we will start with the levels of abstraction in DBMS. So I am going to levels of abstraction in a DBMS. Levels of abstraction in a DBMS. Levels of abstraction in DBMS. This is important. You have three level, three level of abstraction, three level of abstraction. But to understand the three level of abstraction, we should also understand level as well as cell level. Okay, so that we cover in the database architecture. So we have database architecture. Database architecture. So when we talk about database architecture, we actually have three database architecture. These three database architecture are one tier, two tier, as well as three tier. One tier, two tier, and three tier. These are different architectures depending upon uh, depending upon mm, yes, depending upon client server scenario. Depending upon the client server scenario. Okay. So when you talk about levels of abstraction in DBMS, you have three tier database architecture. हम levels of abstraction जब देखेंगे तब हमको थ्री टायर database architecture पढ़ना है. Understand the levels of abstraction. But to understand this three tier, we should also understand two tier as well as one tier, one tier, two tier and one tier. So once we understand two tier and one tier, then we'll be able to understand this three tier in a better way, and we can have this three level. Okay, so already a level of abstraction आपने लिखा है शायद, and we have also mentioned which are the three levels. Okay, which are the three levels. So before we go to the three tier, we will see first what is the two tier, or last may if time permits we will go with one tier. Okay, so these are very simple. One tier is very simple to understand, but before we understand three tier, let's go with the two tier. Okay, we will go with the two tier database architecture. We will go with the two tier database architecture. Now please pay attention, this is important. Try to understand the concept of what do you mean by database architecture and what do you mean by two tier. So when you talk about database architecture, actually this architecture is nothing but it is a client server architecture. This is a client server architecture. I hope everyone is familiar with what do you mean by client and what do you mean by server. Can any one of you tell me what do you mean by client server, or what do you mean by client, what do you mean by server? Anyone please unmute and let me know. What do you mean by client, what do you mean by server? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, मुझे बताओ, what do you mean by client, what do you mean by server?
Sir, client means user who is requesting for the information to the
Oh,
server, and
oh,
server is storing the information.
okay, okay. You're close to the answer, and actually, some part of that is also right. Anyone who can elaborate more on this client server? Who can elaborate in the client server? या फिर मुझे कोई बता सकता है कि client server picture, when we have this client server picture, in what sense? जब हम क्या डील करते हैं? जब हम क्या डील करते हैं, then we have this client server architecture in front of our eyes. Okay. Now see
Google
here.
searching.
Google searching, you can say, or you can say whenever you have some, whenever you search any web page, whenever you search some web page, then we have a client server. Okay. For example, let me give an example of a Facebook, or let me give an example of any of the most widely used, that is a Google. तो whenever हम Facebook या Google जब open करते हैं, okay, whenever you type the website on the portal, you are automatically getting connected with the site's server. वो site का जो server होता है उससे हम connect होते हैं. Okay, so जैसे Google का server, I think it is available in the California. So the server which is present at that end, we get connected whenever we type the website of that Google. Okay, so here we do understand what do you mean by client and what do you mean by server, and how that that plays an important role in your DBMS. वो DBMS में क्या role play करता है, that thing we have to see. Now to start with an example, if I take a client, now client here simple means it is a user. In simple word, it is a user. Okay, so client user, or this is a PC where the client or user is sitting. This is a PC where client or user is sitting. Now you know the client and server, client or user is using their program, that is called as the application program. Okay, so application program is running, application program is running on the PC where user or client is sitting. So application program is running where user or client is sitting. Now this application program is actually connected with the server. It is connected with the server, and to be more specific, let me call this server as database server. Database server. I will give an example for this. Okay, it is connected with the database server. Now this is a direct connection. We are trying to understand the concept of two tier, which is called as a client server architecture. So in this client server architecture, we have one PC where client is sitting, that is connected directly with the database server. That is correctly connected with the database server. Now in this database server PC, now this is called as a server because you know it is actually giving service to the client. इसलिए उसका नाम सर्वर होता है. In simple lay language, in layman language, I can say the PC which gives service to the user, or in other word, I can say if the user or client is requesting the service of some uh, service of some vendor or some web page, then who is giving the service or who is accepting the request and giving the service, it is called as a server. It is called as a server. So you have a database server. Now in this database server, as it is a database server, you know there is a DBMS software. There is a DBMS software. Please uh, uh, restrict our attention towards two tier. जब थ्री टायर में जाएंगे, that time it will be more clear. Okay, इसलिए मैं थ्री टायर directly नहीं लिया हूँ. I have started with the two tier. In this two tier, we have a database server in which you have a DBMS software, and this DBMS software is used to access the database. It is used to access the database. Access the database means in which we can manipulate, we can store, okay, we can do the changes in the database. So this software is going to help us in manipulation in the database, depending upon the request given by the client or the user. Now this scenario in which you have a client and server, or which is a database server and the client, this is called as a two tier. in which the client is directly connected with the database server. Now, let me give you an example. The best example I can give you, the institute or the college. The institute or the college. Now, the DBMS server is single, and through this we have different clients. We have different clients. We have different clients. So client 1, client 2, client 3, and client 4. Now take an example of a college. We have different departments. Suppose the library department is handling client, is having the client 2. Okay, so library department is having client 2. Then paying of the fees is done by the client 1. So payment will be done by the client 1. आप जब whenever you give the payment, whenever you do the payment, so all your database are stored there. Okay, that means whenever you give, whenever you pay the fees, college fees, that is getting updated in your database. So that particular person who is updating that information is using client 1, and that client 1 is using some specific software that is called as the application program, that is using some specific software or application program to update your database. Okay, similarly library, whenever you go to issue some book, or whenever you give to return back some book, the person who is sitting in the library is also using some application program. It is also using some application program or some software. Using that software or application program, the person will be able to update your database. He will be able to update the database. So that client 1 and client 2 are two different PCs handling two different works. Similarly, there is client 3. Similarly, there is client 4. So in a bigger organization or in a bigger institute, there is a single DBMS or database server which is handled by different clients having different application programs. Okay, depending upon the requirement. Okay, so this scenario is called as two-tier because we have a client and we have a DBMS which is directly connected. Now something more on this. Directly connected means, now because of this direct connection, the communication is also faster. Okay, the communication is also faster. This DBMS software will help us to access the data. In accessing the data, again, modification, okay, updation, so everything can be done in this database by using this software. And this connection or the interface between between the client and the server is done by the ODBC, which stands for Open Database Connectivity. ODBC. Now this ODBC is nothing but the driver. Which comes along with the DBMS software. This is some additional part. This is not so important, but whenever you have a direct access or direct communication between the client and the DBMS server, it is through the ODBC, that is Open Database Connectivity, which is nothing but a driver which comes along with the DBMS software. Okay, so this is called as a client server architecture or two-tier architecture. Any question in this?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, whenever you talk about this program interface that allow client-side program to call the DBMS, okay, this particular scenario, there is no other tier. Only two tier are there. Only client and server. लेकिन कहीं कहीं पे there is a additional of one more tier. Okay, so that additional, you will also agree with me, you have also studied this, or you know this, that in the 3 tier now, in the three tier, this is also called as a client server architecture, but this three tier is mostly based upon based upon internet application internet application internet application internet application, or else I can say this is web based application web based application. So whenever you have a web based application, or whenever you access the internet, automatically you talk about the three tier automatically you talk about the three tier. Okay, so in the three tier scenario, you have a client, you have the database database server you have a database server you have a database server. In this database server, you have again the software dbms, which is accessing your database which is accessing your database which is accessing your database. Now here there is no direct connection. The connection is through अभी मैंने एग्जांपल दिया था गूगल. अभी मैंने एग्जांपल दिया था when you are accessing any web page, when you are opening any web page, if you take an example of Facebook, whenever you run that application, that web page application will be open in the browser. That will be open in the browser. और या फिर browser में open करते हो, when you open that one, that doesn't go directly, doesn't go directly with that web server. It goes via web server. There you have web server. There you have a web server. There you have a web server. Okay. Now, when we talk about this web server, here also in web server there is an application. Okay. Now the client, take an example now. You're opening any, so if you open the Facebook, the home page will be open the web server. Asks for login ID password. So it asks the login password, the password. Actually, this web server asking client to enter the login and the password. Once it enters the login and the password, it will be directed to the database. Because the database is of all the login IDs and the passwords, those who are using Facebook. Those who are using Facebook. So, when the database is a huge database, so authentication of the login ID with its corresponding password done in the database of that database server with the help of DBMS software. The help of DBMS software. So client is not directly connected with the database server. No direct connection. It is through the web server. Now this web server is actually responsible to open the web page. Okay, ask for the login ID and the password. For example, suppose you give a wrong password, then the error message will be displayed on the screen. So that thing is done by the web server. That everything is done by the web server. So this web server uses the application server. It uses the application server. Okay, so this application server is actually is nothing but it runs different codes. It is responsible to manipulate, to do some calculations. Okay, so these are the the different work in the web server. And in the database server, already I have told you, it has the collection of the data. Okay, so from this database, verifying the password, giving out the password, okay, login ID of all the users is stored in the database. It is stored in the database. Now in the three tier system, which is mostly web based application, you will be seeing three levels: client level, web server level, and the database server okay, and the client is getting connected with the database server via web server. Now this is called as a 3 tier. This is called as a 3 tier. I will come back to tier. Before I come back to 3 tier, let me just give you let me give you 1 tier. 1 tier is not part of your syllabus. Just try to understand. Whenever, let me take an example. Let me take an example of Microsoft Word. Now this is the client. This is the client or the user, and you are accessing the Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word बोलो या फिर Microsoft Excel बोलो. I will take an example of a Microsoft Excel. Now it is a 1 tier. 1 tier means there is no server or database server. There is no database server. Okay. There is also because मैं Microsoft Excel access कर रहा हूँ, so there is no web based server also. So there is no web based server, there is no database server. Then in 1 tier, what is actually there? See here with an example. Whenever you are opening some Microsoft Excel, and in the Microsoft Excel, for example, if I ask CR of your class to give me the database of a student, and he or she is giving me the data in the Excel format, in the spreadsheet. Okay. Now here you are using the Microsoft Excel. You are entering all the datas. You are maintaining all the datas, and once the data is stored, you are saving this Microsoft Excel file. You are saving this Microsoft Excel file. Okay. Now this user will have its own database in the Microsoft Excel. The user is using the application program, which is a Microsoft Excel. It is not going to access the database server because your database is not present in the database server, but it is present in the application itself. The data is stored in the application itself. Which is that application program? Microsoft Excel. So here there is a single tier, only client is in the picture. The client is maintaining the database using the application program, that is a Microsoft Excel, and that database is already present in the Microsoft. So if I have to change the some data records, if I have to change some or delete some record, that can be done in the application itself. That can be done in the application itself without reaching towards the database server. And even this is possible whenever the database is small. This is very important. When the database is small. When the database is small. So being the CR of a class, you can maintain the data of 78 to 80 students. No problem. There is no harm. But to maintain the database of the whole institute, you cannot rely upon Microsoft Excel. Then you have to take care of the database server. Then we have to take the help of database server, which will have huge database. Any questions so far? Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay. So come back to the 3 tier now. In this 3 tier, आपके syllabus में भी यही है. So I will go back to this 3 tier. I will take the fresh page. Yes. So I was talking about the client or the user. Then we have a web page, or sorry, this is web based. We can say web based server or web server, and we have at the last, that is database server. Database server. So this is called as a 3 tier: client, user, web server and database server. Now, as per the DBMS terminology in the database management system, the terminology which will be used for client and user will be, pay attention. I am writing down the analogous in terms of the database management system. Okay, the terminologies which has to be used instead of client and user. The terminologies are for client and server, we will be writing down external level, or it is view level. External level or view level will be called as client user, will be called as client or user. For web server, for web server, we will call this in terms of database management system, it will be called as conceptual level, or it is also called as logical level. Conceptual level or logical level. And the database server, which is the last tier, the last level in database management system, it is called as internal level, internal level, also called as internal level या फिर physical level, internal level or physical level. Okay, so you have to understand external level or view level is nothing but your client's user or client or user. Conceptual level or logical level is nothing but your web server, web-based server. And internal level or physical level is your database server. It is your database server. Okay, so this thing I can show you. This thing I can show you. Okay, we will just read out this and proceed further to understand the actual the diagram, actual diagram. Okay, see here, please pay attention. The data in a DBMS is described at three levels of abstraction. Three levels of abstraction, as illustrated in the figure. That thing figure we are going to see very soon. The database description consists of a schema at each of these three levels of abstraction: the conceptual, the physical, and external. So conceptual schema or conceptual level, physical schema or physical level, external schema or external level. ओके, ये जो मैंने यहाँ पे लिख के दिया, एक्सटर्नल लेवल या एक्सटर्नल स्कीमा, कंसेप्चुअल लेवल या फिर कंसेप्चुअल स्कीमा, एंड इंटरनल लेवल और फिर या फिर इंटरनल स्कीमा. Okay, so that thing we can see. Okay. Yes, see the diagram now. This is the level of abstraction in a DBMS. This is a level of abstraction in a DBMS. So if you see properly, external schema 1, external schema 2, external schema 3, these are nothing but clients. These are nothing but clients. Conceptual schema is nothing but your web server. And your physical schema is nothing but your database server. And in the database server, you have disk. Wherever you store the data, it can be in the form of tapes, or it can be form of disk. These are nothing but, these are actually your database. This is actually your database. जहाँ पे आपका पूरा डेटा स्टोर है, डेटाबेस है ये वाला. कैन यू सी द हायरार्की ना? सबसे ऊपर क्लाइंट, उसके नीचे वेब सर्वर, उसके नीचे डेटाबेस सर्वर. डेटाबेस सर्वर दैट इज अ फिजिकल स्कीमा. हमने क्या लिखा था फिजिकल स्कीमा को? Internal level. So I can write down this as a just a minute. Yes, I can write down this as internal level. Then comes the conceptual schema that is at the database server. We call this as also as a logical level, and this external schema that is at the client level, that is also called as a, yes, now it is fine. Okay, so this is your database. So for physical, we have told internal level. For conceptual, we say it is a logical level. And for external, what we have said, it is a view level or external level. It is a view level or external level. So this is external level. Okay, so these are the different terminologies which are used in the levels of abstraction in a DBMS. So I will just go here now. Just pay attention now. Yes. See, the levels of abstraction जो अभी अब तक पढ़े हमने, I'm just reading out. Physical level describes how a record is stored. Physical level describes how a record is stored. Here they have taken an example of a customer. We have taken the example of the students. Okay, that is about the physical level. Logical level देखो क्या बताता है. Now actually the levels of abstraction is nothing but at each level how the schema is described. See what I'm saying. At levels of abstraction is nothing but at each level how the schemas are described. For example, at physical level, see the how it is described, how a record is stored. At logical level, see it describes data stored in database and the relationships among the data. For example, type customer record name street and city, जो मैंने इसके लिए भी दिखाया था स्टूडेंट के लिए. The relationship is shown in the logical level. The relationship is shown in the logical level. And in the view level जहाँ पे client बैठा है, application programs hide details of data types. Views can also hide information, example salary, for security purpose. अब इसका मतलब क्या मैं आपको बताता हूँ. Why it is called as a view level? Because you know at the conceptual level, मुझे यहाँ पे दिखाने दो. हाँ. Yes. See here now. Now, whenever you talk about the client, now it depends upon me. What should be, what parameters has to be viewed on the client side. Suppose for example, अगर हम कॉलेज का डेटाबेस लेते हैं जिसमें स्टूडेंट का डेटाबेस है और फैकल्टी का डेटाबेस है. Now in the faculty database, there is one parameter, there is one field which will reflect the salary of the faculty, But I don't want the salary. See, salary of the faculty should be available at the database level. Yes, I agree. ये जो database level है ना, database server, there the record of the salary of the faculty should be stored. I don't have any problem, but that should not be viewed at the client level. या फिर the faculty salary should be viewed by some people and should not be viewed by some people. So that type of a security is provided at the conceptual level. So conceptual level means your web server level. आपका conceptual level कहाँ पे आता है? ये लेवल पे आता है, वेब सर्वर लेवल पे आता है. ओके, आपका व्यू लेवल क्या है? क्लाइंट लेवल पे. और आपका फिजिकल लेवल कहाँ पे? डेटाबेस सर्वर पे लेवल पे. So that is why client level or external level is also called as a view level, because conceptual level can provide the security which will allow the client to view some specific fields and will not allow to view some specific fields. That type of a security can be provided by conceptual level. That means there's some type of insulation. That word is used in the ebook. Insulation. The conceptual level will provide some insulation. ये देखो insulation बनाया मैंने ऐसा insulation. So client will not be able to see some details because the insulation is provided by the conceptual level. Conceptual level as well as by physical level. So conceptual level along with the physical level can provide some insulation towards the client or the view level, so that some data can be viewed and some data cannot be viewed. I hope you have understood this. I hope you have understood this.
Yes, sir, understood.
Okay. So that is called as a view level. That is called as a view level. Application program hide details of data types. Views can also hide information, example salary, for security purpose. For security purpose. Okay. So that is the meaning. Yes. This is the architecture of a database level. Can you see view 1, view 2, view dot view 1? These are nothing but client 1, client 2, client 3 dot. This is also means that external level 1, external level 2, okay, and so on and so forth. Then comes the logical level. Can you see the logical level? Logical level या फिर conceptual level, and the last is your physical level, that is your database server level. Okay, so this is the architecture. This is the architecture. Yes. See here, instances and schema. Now I think before I go with the instances and schema, let me also explain, let me also show you. Yes, this one. So this is the figure. You can draw this figure, or else the figure which I have shown on the slide. That thing also you can. But this is a elaborative one. This will give you more better knowledge. Okay. So already you have this book. This is a book by Radhakrishnan. So you can just go through this. Okay. I am not going to read out this. Okay. यहाँ पे वही लिखा है कि कंसेप्चुअल लेवल में आप क्या डिस्क्राइब कर रहे हो. ओके, कंसेप्चुअल लेवल में आप क्या डिस्क्राइब कर रहे हो, and see how the fields are given for students, faculty, courses, and so forth. So conceptual schema is here. Then how we can design the perfect conceptual database? For that we have a conceptual database design. Similarly, once you understand the conceptual, then you have a physical schema. Okay, there are some examples given. Please go through this. जो मैंने अब तक पढ़ा है, everything on that basis you will be able to understand all the concept of external and internal and the logical schema. This is the external schema. See how the data we can view. So that is also mentioned here. Now come to the last part. That is a data independency. That is a data independence. Now see here, try to understand this. This is a term which will come under the DBMS, because whenever you talk about the data independence, this means how your data is more secured. मैंने अभी आपको एग्जांपल बताया था कि in your database which is present at the physical level, that is being protected, because the conceptual level and the physical level will work together and will only allow those data which will be able to view by the client. Okay, So in that case, your data is independence. Your data will not be depending upon the user. Okay, being a user, if I want to see some data, I cannot make the I cannot modify, or I cannot do some changes in the database. No, I can only view the data, and that also which part or which field I should view, that is not depending upon me. That is not depending upon me. That will be taken care by the remaining two tiers. Okay, so in that case, your data is independence. Okay, so यहाँ पे वही लिखा है. A very important advantage of using DBMS, the software DBMS, is that it offers data independence. That is, application programs are insulated. See, this is a word which is used, insulated, from changes in the way the data is structured and stored. I cannot make any changes in the database. I have been insulated. I have been insulated from the two levels. I have been insulated from the two levels. Okay. So data independence is achieved through use of three levels of data abstraction. In particular, the conceptual schema and external schema provide distinct benefits in this area. So I was talking about its conceptual schema and external schema, which will provide the distinct benefit in this area. Okay. So here also you can just read out some important points. So please revise this. Okay, please revise this. Yes, this is the end of this. Even I have shared with you, even I have shared with you this PPT. Okay, I will share this PPT with you also. So here also you will be able to understand the instances and the schema in terms of physical schema, logical schema. Okay, and what do you mean by instance? Okay, and see here it is also mentioned here, physical data independency. Physical data independency. Okay, the ability to modify the physical schema without changing the logical schema. Applications depend on the logical schema. In general, the interfaces between the various levels and components should be well defined so that changes in some part do not seriously influence others. Okay, so these are the some important parts we should be able to understand. So I think we can stop for today. Next thing I will be starting with data models. Yes, I think we have covered the module number 1. Now we will be jumping to the second module, that is data models. And in this data models, we will be seeing some models, and we will be trying to understand one important model, that is ER model. Okay, ER model, effective relational model. Okay, so if you have any questions, please ask. अटेंडेंस हो गया क्या? अटेंडेंस हो गया? मेरी आवाज आ रही सबको?
Yes, sir.
अटेंडेंस हो गया क्या अपना?
No idea, sir.
Just a minute, just. हाँ, yes, हो गया, हो गया. Yes, everyone can leave. If you have questions, please stay back. Others can leave. Thank you.